Now, I don't know a ton about the history of my childhood home, but I know that it was old as hell and one of the creepiest places I've ever lived in. It was a 4-story house, fancy, right? With lots of dark spaces and long stairways. Basically, it was really big. There wasn't a moment in that house that I felt like I was truly alone, and there wasn't a hallway that felt truly empty. I was just barely out of toddlerhood when I started to develop severe anxiety. I was afraid to do anything alone. I was always checking behind me, sleeping with my head under the covers, seeing things, hearing things, you name it. I'm almost 100% sure that there was something paranormal making me feel that way. I wasn't the only one seeing and hearing things, though. My older brother shared a room with me, and he always slept on the top bunk. His bed was maybe a foot away from the ceiling, and the attic was right above us. He told me that some nights he'd hear adult footsteps right above his head, just circling the attic. But it gets weirder. He told me that at one point he woke up next to a shadowy figure just lying in bed with him. He claims the figure had 2 white specks for eyes, and that it wasn't acting malicious, just lying there silently. This might have been some kind of sleep paralysis hallucination, but considering the other events, I wouldn't be surprised if it was some kind of spirit. And now, onto the worst one, the playroom. That room was the creepiest fucking thing in the house, and I get shivers just thinking about it. It sat at the end of a long hallway on the top floor, just below the attic. My room was down the hall from it, and it was always pitch black. I remember staying up at night staring at it, just in case something moved. I often couldn't take my eyes away in fear of something appearing if I did. Somehow, every time I looked at that doorway, the door was wide open, and the door wasn't weak either. It worked perfectly fine and wouldn't open unless you turned the knob. I'd ask my dad to close it before I went to bed, and it would stay closed for a bit, until it just slid open again. I'm not a door specialist, but it was just arguably creepy. But wait, there's more. Now that we're older and out of that house, me and my brother found out that we shared a terrifying experience. We both saw something incredibly creepy in the same place. I remember it vaguely. It was a small, neutral, glowing white face in the playroom. It looked a bit like a little kid from my memory. It had no body, just a pure white face in the dark. It was just around my height, and its eyes were kind of just not there. I don't remember much, but I remember it was the single most terrifying thing I'd been through. I don't know if I hallucinated or what, but I know it felt incredibly real at the time. Maybe it was a dream or something, because all I remember is seeing that fucking face, getting scared, and running back to my bed. I don't think I screamed, but I seriously don't remember. I kind of love/hate thinking about it, because it just makes my hair stand on edge. Thanks to that house, I have now been diagnosed with anxiety. I'm taking medication for it, and I'm alright, but I thought it was worth noting. I could go on, but I can't really think of anything else right now. Maybe my next post should be about the attic or basement. Nothing really happened there, but they freaked me out, for sure. This story happened back in December in Ireland, and it's one of my more solid paranormal stories, so I thought I'd share. It's also a lot less distressing to me since it wasn't my house. I was just on vacation. I'm American. In December, the first half of our trip, me and my mom were in Dublin, and the second half, we were in the country of Killarney. We were near several haunted attractions, and it was all very cool. I didn't get bad vibes from any of it, to be honest. The house did feel eerie. It was a historical country home with historical furniture, and it was on the property of another family. I was already creeped out by the house, but the house itself and the land were so beautiful I didn't really care. It was the second to last day, and we had just toured some haunted castle and graveyard that is right across the road from us. We go to sleep, and around 1 to 2 a.m., I'm woken up by a very loud doorbell. I'm extremely scared at this point because I think it's a stranger outside of the house. And also, my mom would get high and smoke cigarettes out there and forget to lock the door sometimes, so I wasn't sure if it was locked. I don't move for about 5 minutes and just listen to see if I can hear anybody outside or inside. I hear nothing, so I text my mom that somebody rang the bell, get up, lock my door, and wait another 20 minutes. After 20 minutes of not hearing anything, I get up and make sure all the doors and windows are locked. They all were, and I peek my head out, see nobody there, and go back to sleep. I wake up later to my mom, and I tell her what happened. She's also super creeped out because she thinks that we're gonna get murdered out here. I'm trying to describe the sound of it to her, but realize I can't because it was a very unique, resounding bell that sounded like it was coming from all directions inside the house. I go outside so I can hit the bell and show her, and we find out there is no doorbell. We search the whole property for one, and there isn't. Next, I'm thinking, maybe it was a doorbell from the family's house somehow. So I hit their doorbell, and it's very faint, and definitely not the same. This whole time, we see nobody there, except for their creepy-ass Victorian furniture, dining table, always set for nobody. The next day, we get home pretty late from our hike. We look inside. It's hard not to. This wall was half window, and some creepy-ass person was just sitting there in the dark on their Victorian couch. No TV or nothing, just next to their set dining table. We are both paranormal sus, and I start looking up stories about the doorbell. All I find is that everybody says, whatever you do, don't open the door because that invites it in. I tell her this, and we go to sleep that night. I wake up around 3 to 4 a.m. because that was our last night, and I need to pack for the airport. I'm downstairs making coffee when I hear her shout out, "Megan, was that you?" And I shout, "No, what do you mean?" from below. Later, she tells me that she was woken up at that time from very loud knocks to her door. I was right downstairs and would have heard this. Because of what I said, she didn't open the door and waited another hour before coming out. I asked if maybe I made too much noise with the coffee maker, and she says no, it was very clearly 3 knocks on her door. So what do you think? I searched all day at the airport that day, and I found nothing on this. Did that mean that something wanted in? Was it waiting outside of our doors? What the actual fuck was it? I tried to pressure her into messaging the owner and asking about the paranormal history of the house, but she refused, and I couldn't find anything. Has anything like this ever happened to you? I now live overseas, but growing up, I lived in an Edwardian-era townhouse in a town on the coast of the UK for about 10 years. This house was haunted by at least 2 people that I know of, and potentially more. The first ghost I came across, I shall refer to him as Mr. Coat, was a dark, intimidating shadow in the shape of a large man wearing a long coat. He always stayed standing at the front door all night, almost like he was keeping a guard out for something every night. The front door and hallway was directly in front of the staircase, so to get downstairs, for example, to get water, you would have to walk past him. Sometimes you would see his shadow, and other times you wouldn't, but you would always feel his presence. The only time I've ever seen Mr. Coat outside of his hallway was when I returned home after several years away. I woke up, and he was in the room I was sleeping in, by the old boarded-up fireplace, before he disappeared. The second occupant of the house is an older woman who we believe fell down the stairs of the house and never left. You would always see her around the stairs, and occasionally, with no one else in the house, you would hear a female speaking to you as you walked up and down the stairs. There are also several other strange things that have happened over the years that we have been unable to tie to any particular individual ghost or phenomena. Multiple things go missing throughout the house and turn up in strange places. I've had shoes go missing and appear outside, shopping left up the stairs and in random rooms, etc. Nothing ever malicious, but a definite sense of a mischievous joke. We've also experienced unexplained hot spots in one specific room near the old boarded-up fireplace, lights turning on and off, and footsteps when no one else is home. The strangest experience by far, though, happened on the 11th of November. Around 10 a.m., the house went mad. Lights and other electronics turning on and off. Doors started slamming, and footsteps all throughout the house, and what sounded like murmuring. It passed after a couple of minutes, and it's never happened again to that extent, but it was very strange.